Good evening, everyone. So we are ready to start today's lecture. I am Koil Banerjee, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome you to the Cultural Studies Research Forum. We are thrilled this evening to launch our third public lecture of 2026 and our 56th public lecture overall. Tonight, we are joined by the esteemed guest, Dr. Ajay Sekher, who will lead us through a compelling and crucial subject, Buddhist studies and the cultural foundations of Keralam. For those joining us for the first time, let me share a brief introduction for our organization. The CSRF, Cultural Studies Research Forum, is a student-led non-profit organization established in 2022, built upon the conviction that knowledge holds transformative power. We fulfill this mission by organizing free public lectures and discussion that span a diverse spectrum and from literature and art to music and food. Our ultimate goal is to empower students by exposing them to novel ideas, nurturing critical thinking, and cultivating a deeper appreciation for the complex and multifaceted world we share. Now, I'm really delighted to share a brief introduction of our esteemed guest, Dr. Ajay Sekher. He is an associate professor and research supervisor in the Department of English at Sri Shankaracharya University of Sanskrit, Kalari. His doctoral research thesis is on the caste and gender margins represented in post-colonial Indian fiction written in English and in modern Indian languages. His areas of research interest include post-colonial subaltern studies, cultural studies, race and ethnicity studies, gender and caste studies, Kerala morality, Dalit studies and new literature, and Dalit, Bahujan and Buddhist studies, interdisciplinary and intersectional critical studies, etc. Ajay Sekhar's critical writings and translations are published in Indian literature, EPW, Litcrit, Humanities Circle, MRJ, MLS, Sahitya Lokam, and other academic and popular journals. His translations are also in the textbooks of MG, Calicut, and Kannada universities. He is also an artist and an art critic, or you can say an historian, curator, and photographer who has done solo and group shows of art in and out of Kerala. Now, please it's on you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Koil, for that very generous introduction. And thank you for the invitation by the Cultural Studies Research Forum. And I'm really happy to be part of this non-profit students initiative, which is looking into the various aspects of culture, society, politics, and art in the context, mostly in the Indian context. So today we are trying to look into the question of the cultural foundations of Kerala. We know about modern Kerala and the kind of human development that we boast about. But also we are having many reactions and regressions and alarming kind of formations in Kerala and also in the country. So in the context of such majoritarian political formations and this kind of a cultural nationalist formations, we are looking into the rudimentary nature of culture and what is at the bottom, as Raymond Williams and others of cultural studies, they have inquired what precipitates to the bottom, that is the real culture, the cultures of the people, the lived realities and lived cultures of the ordinary people. That culture is ordinary, and culture is a whole way of life and a whole way of struggle, as E.P. Thompson and others have emphasized. So that legacy of culture and the struggle of culture and the contestation of culture, including the issues of cultural nationalism and other forms of socio-political mobilizations in the country. This is the context in which we are looking into the cultural legacies of Keralam and India. Basically, Keralam is a modern entity. It was formed as part of the linguistic unification of states in the post-colonial times. In 1956, it was officially born. Formerly, during the colonial times, mostly in the British times, it was three principalities. It consisted of Travancore in the south, and Kochi in the middle part of Kerala, and Malabar, which was part of the Mysore regime here under Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, and later, towards the end of the 18th century, it fell into the hands of the British also. So this Malabar, Cochin, and Travancore, these are the three former principalities or regional entities that formed the modern state of Kerala. But the name Kerala occurs thousands and thousands of years in various forms of writing and text. The first epigraphical or written recorded historical evidence of Kerala is from the Mauryan emperor Ashoka the Great. Ashoka, in his edicts, mentions Kerala or Keralam. He called it Keraputo or Ketalaputo in many of his edicts, not in a single one, but in the second and 13th edict in particular. He talks about Keraputo or Ketalaputo. Keraputo means the people, the enlightened people of Kerala, along with the Chola, Pandya, and Satyaputta. Satyaputta means the Andhran region, later known as the Satavahana Empire and all. So the Satyaputra, the Chola people, the Pandya people of current Tamil Nadu, all these people are mentioned, and along with them, along the borders of his vast empire, the Mauryan Empire, Ashoka the Great mentioned and saluted. He addressed the people as Keraputo, the enlightened people of Kerala. So that means they were all into that Buddhist wisdom and enlightened cultures of South India. And therefore, that is why Ashoka saluted, addressed them as his own people at the margins of his empire. So it seems that they were already into the enlightened path of the Buddha even before Ashoka. Ashoka lived, we know, in 3rd century BC, before the Common Era, BCE, 3rd century. And the Buddha lived some 250 years before Ashoka in BCE, 5th and 6th century. So it seems that the people of Kerala, the Keraputta or the Ketalaputta, they were already enlightened even before Ashoka. That's why Ashoka saluted them and mentioned them in their edicts, and he mentions about making many developmental activities here, not just for the people, but for nature at large and even for animals. He mentions about sanatoriums and hospitals, veterinary hospitals being set up for animals in the vast empire and in the margins of his empire in the Pandya or Chera, in Tamil parlance in South India, in southern Prakrit, Dakhini Prakrit, and Tamil or Damila, which is known as the Prakrit of the South, Damila or Tamil, which is the ancient language, which is the first classical language to be accepted even by the Indian state. during Vajpayee regime. So in Tamil, in Damila, we are known as Chera people. The Chera dynasty is more known for. So the Chera people in Pali, in the Dharma edicts or the edicts of Ashoka on stone, it is mentioned that the people are here, the enlightened people of Kerala or Chera land. The Chera people are called in Prakrit language, in Ashokan language as Kera people. Chera and Kera invariably used. Those ch becomes k in northern varieties of Prakrit, in Pali, and in Dhamma Lipi, the Ashokan Brahmi that he was using. So it is Mauryan Emperor Ashoka who used and mentioned and used it in writing. So the first epigraphical, archaeological, and historical evidence of the existence of Kerala from BCE times, from the time of the Buddha, it occurs in the second and 13th edicts of Ashoka, of course, written in North India, in Girnar, in Gujarat regions, and in Kalinga region, in that Bhubaneswar region, Kalinga, today's Odisha region. There you find these epigraphical evidences written in stone in the Dharma Lipi, the Lipi or the script that was used by Ashoka to propagate the Dharma, the ethical philosophy of the Buddha. So it seems that the Buddha himself has walked down to South India. That is why Ashoka also followed the footprints or the footsteps of the Buddha to South India. He came to South India. He is buried in South India, in Kanaganahalli, in Karnataka, in today's Karnataka, earlier part of the greater Tamil country or the greater Tamilagam in the Sangam age. That Sangham, the idea of the Sangha, the democratic society, inclusive, representative, democratic society of the Sangha is also a key word from the Buddha. So we have that Sangha tradition or the Sangam culture, also called the Changam culture in Tamil. Changam literature is there, the Sangha culture and Sangham literature is also in South India from that period, from the BC 6th century to CE 6th century, that thousands of years, that 1,000 years, that marks the Sangham tradition and literature here, where you have the proper Buddhist epics, Jain epics, and other Ajivaka forms of writing. So South India was largely shaped from the time of the Buddha onwards as an egalitarian, democratic, inclusive, polyphonic, and pluralistic society. And religion was a matter of philosophy and an opinion here, rather than adherence to strict forms of belief and that kind of esoteric kind of practice. So South India was largely Buddhist and Jain and Ajivaka and Dravidian in its cultural essence. And at least from the time of Ashoka, that is BCE 3rd century, it was acknowledged by the Mauryan emperor in his edicts. So the first mention, the first cultural marker of the existence of Keralam is from the edicts of Ashoka. That's the point that I'm making. So it is having a proper Buddhist, enlightened, democratic kind of legacy and history that Kerala has evolved through centuries, at least from BC 3rd century. It is mentioned concretely in writing in stone. So later, of course, after the Mauryan Empire and the Sungan kind of takeover, towards the end of the BCE era, we find the sabotage by the Brahminical chieftain Pushyamitra Sunga, and he assassinated the last Mauryan Buddhist emperor, Brihadartha Maurya, through cheat and covetous means. And there was a rise of Brahminical religion in North India. And also, the Sangam tradition got declined in the kind of Brahminical Vedic kind of invasions and infiltrations, ideological as well as material kind of invasions that happened in South India. As a consequence, many Hindu forms of worship, Vedic forms of worship, Vedic and Brahminical kind of practices emerged in South India from the CE 7th and 8th century onwards. So then you find the rise of Vaishnavism, Vaishnavite Brahmanism, and also Shaivite forms of, again, the Hindu Vedic religion you find in South India. So from the 8th century to the 12th or 14th century, it was a Shaivite and Vaishnavite kind of a sweep or invasion in South India. There you won't find that mention of Kerala being an enlightened land. You find a lot of religious tensions, conflicts, a lot of feuds between Brahmanism and Buddhism and Jainism. And you even find religious persecution, not just religious rivalry, but religious persecution also. And a lot of evidences, inscriptional and also literary evidences from various Periya Puranam and various Shaivite kind of writings. You have evidences of Holocaust and religious persecution, mass scale murder that happened in the name of religion, especially the Shaivites. And also in ideological terms and symbolic terms, the Vaishnavites also trying to annihilate the other, the Jains and Buddhists and Ajivagas in particular. So they are together known as the Shramana tradition, which is the ancient tradition that dates back to the Indus Valley period, which is the largest and the longest and the most ancient civilization in the whole world also. It is comparable to the very name of India. It comes from the Indus River, the Indus Valley civilization. India, Indica, all these places and place names and words in Western languages, in European languages, in Greco, Latin sources. It is from the river India or Indus, basically Sindhu or Indus. It is also the name that was given by the outsiders, the Persians and the Arabs, the traders in particular, because they used to pronounce Indus as Hindus. Or Indians as Hindus. So the very name Hindu is a Persian and Arab kind of word in origin. So that tradition, the ancient tradition of the Indus, or the real Indian tradition, is called the Shramanic tradition, the Shramana tradition, the tradition, the working culture, and the people and their working culture. Shramana means those who the work hard, those who struggle hard. The real working cultures of the Indus Valley, they are called the Shramanic people. So that was a pre-Buddhist tradition. Gautama Buddha, who has founded or initiated this new development of philosophy, which is called the Middle Path, is only the 28th Buddha. Buddha means the enlightened one. Anybody can be an enlightened person. Even that Dalit girl, Matangi or Prakriti, she can also become an enlightened scholar and an enlightened human being. And she can become a world missionary and a globetrotter. And people are listening to her. Even Prasenajit, the emperor, the king, is conversing with that Dalit girl when she has become a nun in the Sangha of the Buddha, and when she has become a great missionary teacher. So it is there in Tagore's Chandaliga. It is there in Ashan's Chandala Bhikshugi, that has celebrated its 100 years now, which was published originally in 1925, 24 it was published. Tagore wrote it in 1930s. So anyway, that tradition of India, or the Indus River, the Sindhu tradition, the Saindhava legacy, it goes back to BC 5000, or at least 8,000 years of legacy. It is long legacy it is having. Though that Shramana legacy, the pre-Buddhist and the early Jain tradition, the Ajivaka tradition, the Charvaka traditions, the materialist and more rationalist traditions of India. That is the real tradition, the people's legacy, the working people's legacy, which is otherwise called a Shramana tradition. In Tamil, it is called the Amana or the Chamana tradition. Buddhist monks are also called Amana or the Shramana or the Chamana in Tamil. So that legacy you can date back to the Indus Valley. So there is also, it is a Dravidian kind of connection, in ethnically and linguistically, a Dravidian kind of linguistic writing background is also there with that tradition. So that tradition was flourishing in South India, even after the Sungan takeover in North India. And the Gupta Brahmanical Vedic regime in North India, it was flourishing in South India till the 8th century CE. So the Cheras, the Cholas, and the Pandyas, they were resisting the Vedic Brahmanical Chaturvarnya system and the caste system. And they were more say liberal and egalitarian in their acknowledgement of religion and philosophy. And they accepted Jainism and Buddhism, and the Shramana texts, the Changam texts, are like Manimeghalai of Chatanar, which is a Buddhist epic, and Silappadigaram of Ilango Adigal, a Chera prince or a younger prince. He and the Tirukural of Tiruvalluvar, all these texts, along with Kundalageshi, Jivaka Chintamani, Valayapati, all these fivefold epics, that is called, in the Buddhist analogy of Panchashila, it is the fivefold Pancha Mahakapiyam of Tamil, Aimperum Kapiyam of Tamil. That means the fivefold greater epics of Tamil. So it's all the legacy of Buddhism, Jainism, and the Dravidian legacy. Women characters like Manimekhalai, they are the heroines, and they are the protagonists, women, liberated women, educated women, those who become great world teachers and great world sailors and great philosophers and missionaries, like Manimekhalai, who has become a great nun and a missionary. So that kind of women and their quest for truth and justice, not just the individual ideas of truth and justice, but collective sense of justice, greater social social representation, democracy, true participation, and true representative democracy, the idea of the Sangha, like Buddham, Dhammam, and Sangham, the three key ideas, which is called the triple gems of the Buddha, the triple asylums, the Trisarana, the triple asylum or the triple retreats, and the triple gems of the Buddha. The Triratna and Trisarana. So that tradition was there in Tamil, and in the aesthetics also, in the what you call the Aim Perum Kappiyam, and also the Aim Tinai Valakkam. That means the fivefold aesthetic landscapes are there in their traditional poetry and poetics. The poetics and aesthetics is also associated organically with nature and the landscapes. And it is a landscape and ecology based kind of aesthetics that operates in Changam or Sangham poetry and literature. So that tradition was there in South India. Unfortunately, it was lost in the Chaturvarnya invasion in the Vedic so-called Sanatana, that word is also taken and lifted from Buddhist literature, from the word of the Buddha. From the Tipitaka, it is taken Yesha Dhammo Sanantano. You cannot counter hate with hate or anger with anger. You can only conquer or defeat hate and anger with love and compassion. And that is the eternal law. Yesha Dhammo Sanantano. Averena Verani. Yesha Dhamma. Dhammo Sanantano. So you can conquer hate and anger with love and compassion, or Karuna and Maitri, Mudita and Upekha, Mahakaruna and Mahamaitri. These are the ideas of the key ideas of the Buddha, like the Trisarana, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. So his notions of the triple gems, his ideals of the fivefold parts of the Panchashila: do not kill, do not steal, do not intoxicate, do not indulge in sexual misconduct or adultery. So these are the fivefold paths, the five precepts of Buddhism, the Panchashila, and the Ashtanga Marga, or the eightfold path through which, through right vision, through right words, through right kind of thought, through right kind of practice or meditation, you are perfecting that Panchashila. So that is the eightfold path, which is called the Attamagga or the Ashtanga Marga of Buddhism. So the earliest forms of Buddhism, which is called a Theravada Buddhism, the elder school, the early school, the little caste, and later from Nagarjuna's middle path and the philosophy of middle path, you have the Shunyavada and something called the Mahayana tradition, the Mula Madhyamika, Kairiga and the Madhyamika school developing, and a more liberalized and a transcendentalized form emerging in Nagarjuna Acharya from the 2nd century CE. That became popular, and it flourished after the 5th and 6th century, and that created a kind of liberalism and also a diversion and digression and a kind of hybridity with the existing Brahmanical and Vedic practices. So that actually Mahayana was unleashed, and Mahayana became a kind of popular cult, and a lot of idol worship and idolatry that was there, and a lot of stories and legends were added, and there was a moving away, gradual kind of digression from the original teachings, the truthful ethical teachings of the Buddha, because Buddha has denied the existence of a centralized God or a centralized, eternal, unchanging kind of a soul or a spirit. That philosophy is called the philosophy of anitya. That means the theory of impermanence, the philosophy of anitya. Anitya means nothing is nitya. Nothing is permanent. Everything is in flux. Everything is subject to change. There is nothing unchangeable as change itself. Change is the only reality of the world, or whatever is a quintessential truth of the world is transience and change. So that is anitya. Anich in Pali, it is called anich in Pali. It is there in all the North Indian languages. So the philosophy of anitya, which is also therefore called the philosophy of anatma, because it denies, therefore it cancels the existence of a centralized God as an omnipotent and omnipresent and an eternal kind of power, and an eternal presence of a spirit or a Brahma or Atman is also therefore denied. So that is why it is called anatma. And also it talks about this constant change and interrelationship. One change, what happens to one entity in nature or ecology of this world will affect the other. What happens to the little creatures today will affect the humankind tomorrow. So that is called the theory of interdependence, the theory of dependent origination, or Praditya Samutpada, or Samudayavada, or united rising. Samudaya means rising, united. United we rise, divided we fall. That is the philosophy of Praditya or Praditya Samutpadavada or Samudayavada briefly. So the philosophies of Anitya and philosophy of Samudaya, dependent rising or united rising, interrelationship of all beings, not just the human, or the living beings, but even the non-living. The whole universe is linked in a web of life and Maitri, which is an unconditional kind of acknowledgement and relationship and unity with the other. All forms of others, there is no other, there is no self, and no other in the philosophy of Anitya and Anatma. So that is the philosophy precisely, no self, and therefore no other also. Everything is part of the whole, the system. Therefore, it is also called the Abheda Vada or the real Advaya Vada. Original Advaya Vada is this theory of dependent origination or Samudaya Vada, Anitya Samudaya of the Buddha. So he's the original Advayavadi. That is why in the lexicon that was coined in CE 5th century, which is called Amarakosha, in Sanskrit and Prakrit and Pali, even in Kerala it was taught. Amarakosha was part of the traditional schooling here. Even Narayana Guru was taught in that tradition, Amarakosha and Siddharupa. And he cited the Amarakosha in Sri Lanka in 1918 when he went the first time. And he quoted from the 18 synonyms of the Buddha, Advayavadi Vinayaka, Dashabalo, Shadhabitno, Advayavadi, Vinayaka. These are all synonyms of the Buddha. So in the 5th century lexicon, the Sinhalese Buddhist monk Amara Simha, he has codified that particular synonym. Advayavadi is a real synonym of the Buddha originally. So that is why it was through Nagarjuna in 2nd century CE. It was transformed into the Sanitya philosophy, was transformed into an interpretative, a transcendental, mystical term called Shunyavada. And then in the Vedic thinker who lived in 6th century, Gaudapada, Gaudapada in his Mandukya Kairiga, he used it in connection with the Brahmavada of the Vedic metaphysical theistic religion. And then Shankara, Adi Shankara, who lived in 8th century, 8th and 9th century CE, he considered Gaudapada as his Parama Guru, the real master. And he actually linked it as Advaita. So this is the course of gradual transformation of the real Advayavada of the Buddha into the Advaita theory of Shankara. So that is why Shankara is known as the Prachanna Buddha. Prachanna Buddha means the Buddha in disguise. The original theory belongs to Buddha's Advayavada or Anityavada. Samudayavada, that was taken, adopted, and appropriated, and interpreted and interpolated by generations of thinkers like Nagarjuna, later Gaudapada, who linked it to the Brahmavada, Shunyavada in Nagarjuna, Brahmavada in Gaudapada, then Shankara again adopted it as or appropriated it as a Dvaita to insist the Brahma Vada again, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. But Buddha was actually denying in original theory, Buddha was denying the Brahma, and he was questioning the existence of such an eternal spirit or soul or God itself. So it was and this happened over centuries. Buddha lived in BC 6th century. Nagarjuna lived in CE, 1st and 2nd century. That means almost 800 years after Gautama the Buddha. And then CE 6th century is the time of Gaudapada. CE 9th century is the time of Shankara, when he has repackaged or renamed it as Advaita to again emphasize on, to accent on, or to validate his Brahmavada again. So this is the reactionary course that has happened, the genealogy through which the real Advaitavadi is being transformed into a kind of Advaitavadi to emphasize the primacy and the foundational nature of the Brahma. This is why Shankara is also called as the Prachanna Buddha, or the Buddha in disguise. So this is the trajectory, the kind of transformation that has happened in philosophy. And this, along with this, from the rise of Mahayana onwards, I told you earlier that there were many aberrations from the original teachings of the Buddha and Ashokan times. And Ashoka was never using the anthropomorphic kind of images. And like in Islam today, there was a ban on that because it will lead to idolatry. So iconoclasts and those who resist idolatry, the real Buddhists, the Theravadis, they never accepted it. But from the Mahayana times onwards, there was a flourishing of the anthropomorphic kind of idolatry, iconography, and ritualism. And you have the ideas of the bodhisattvas emerging. Plenty of such bodhisattva abhadanas were created. Many stories and legends, like the epics and Puranas of the Hindu kind of metaphysics. So that actually eventually led towards the Brahmanical takeover. Mahayana was very close to the Bhakti movement, or it was resembling and competing with the Bhakti of Vaishnavism and the Bhakti of Shaivism, at least in South India and Central India. So eventually, that strategy of diversification and schisms and liberalization that led to the further appropriation back into the Brahmanical fold. So that is why it was through rituals, through various other practices, through literature, through iconography, through art and painting and sculpture and architecture, you find this assimilation back into the Vedic and the Brahmanical tradition. And also there was something called tantric formations after the 12th or 13th century. There was a tantric transformation. Once the Mahayana was almost absorbed into the Bhakti's traditions of Brahmanism, the tantric occult forms of Buddhism continued in various tantric forms. So that again led to the appropriation back into the Brahmanical things. So what you have in Shabarimala, what you have in Tirupati, what you have in Parani, all these are bodhisattvas of Mahayana and Vajrayana traditions, or the tantric forms. They are now interpreted as Vaishnavite or Shaivite gods and demigods. So this kind of an appropriation happened. And this happened in Kerala also. That is why you find a lot of tantric kind of worshipping systems and rituals and forms all over Kerala temples. Most of the Kerala temples that are more than 500 years old, they are all Buddhist pallis or vihara. Palli is a South Indian word. In Dakhini Pali and Tamil, you have that word Palli and Pallikudam traditions, Kerala's tradition of education. That is the Pallikudam tradition. And also later the Christians and Muslims and Jews and others, all the non-Vedic religions, they have appropriated it to refer to their worshipping place. And the Pallikudam tradition is also there in modern Kerala, in the Western European Christian missionaries also. So the Elthupalli tradition, the Othupalli tradition, the Palli and Pallikudam tradition, it is also the real educational legacy that became a 10% literacy program later in 20th century in Kerala is a real legacy of Buddhism, because Buddhism was giving education, and Brahmanism and Chaturvarnyam denied education even to the Shudra and women of all Varnas. Like Manusmriti prohibited it also. Shudram Akshara Samyuktam Durada Parivarjana, Nastri Swatantrya Marhati. So the Smriti, Shruti, Puranic tradition of Hinduism, when it denied letters to the people, Buddhist nuns and monks, they were educating the people. So that is the tradition of Palli and Pallikudam in Kerala. They also give emphasis to healthcare practices from Ashokan edicts. It is known the hospitals, dharma, ashupatris, or the ethical dharmic hospitals were set up even for animals. So that Sahodaran Ayyappan has sung about in his words, how they have created this educational, not just educational, the Nalanda and Takshashila and Vikramashila, Odantapuri, those universities, and also the hospitals and the healthcare system, the Ayurvedic system, the Panchakarma system, the other indigenous forms of medicine, they are all informed of the Buddhist legacy. Even in 17th century, when the Dutch Van Reed governor, when he compiled that Hortus Malabaricus on the medicinal plants of Kerala, it was an Avarna or a former Buddhist Vaidya, means a medical person, a medical physician, a Vaidya, Itiachan Vaidya of Chertala, Kadakkarapalli. He was behind its codification. The Hortus Malabaricus in Latin. It was printed from Amsterdam in Europe. That tradition of medicine, that tradition of Ayurveda, the tradition of Kalari, the self-defense forms, in the traditions of yogic traditions, Hatha Yoga, and difficult forms of yoga in particular, all those knowledge systems, whatever is the legacy of modern Keralam, is the legacy of Buddhism. It's education, it's healthcare, it's forms of culture and traditions, it's ecology, it's conservation culture. Ashoka began those conservation forests, the Mannar Kadus, and the cows, the Kada and cow traditions, the cow and kulam traditions, the ponds and the conservatories, and the wetlands, the agricultural system, the paddy field agriculture system. It was established in the Mauryan times with a real imperial patronage then in South India. This is the legacy of modern Keralam, and the cultural foundation of modern Keralam, the literacy, the initiation, Nanam Monam, the script in Dhamalipi that was used, that became the mother of the Vatteluttu system of writing. You look at whatever it is, the linguistics or epigraphy or philology, or physical sciences or psychology, whatever discipline you study, you will have to interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary accept the foundation is set by the greater Buddhist legacy in South India, the Changam tradition and the great Sangham literature, and all those legacies of Ashoka and the Mauryas in particular. This is the greater legacy of Keralam, the cultural foundation of Keralam, which is plenty of historians like Professor Elankulam Kunyambillai and others, they have written about. I don't have time to elaborate about all these things. Plenty of books have come from Charles Allen to Patrick Olivelle. They have written about from Promila Thapar to Douglas Ober. They have written about Buddhism, modern Buddhism in Kerala and India, and the legacy of Ashoka. So you can read it all. And also you can read that Buddhism and Kerala by me, published by SSUS, which is available in the publication division there, and also SSUS, pub.ssus. If you write your email, you can also buy that online. You have that Puthan Keralam. If you read a Malayalam book, Puthan Keralam, the cultural foundation of Kerala in Buddhism, that is by Kerala Bhasha Institute, the language regional institute of Kerala, that is in Malayalam. So I have also written a few books on this greater cultural foundation. So those who are studying South Indian culture, Indian culture, Kerala studies in particular, you have to multidisciplinary way. You need to address this issue and read it. And any scholar working in culture, society, literature, history, anthropology, in all the critical humanities, you have to address this issue. You will come to this issue when you delve deeper into your own disciplines. So the limitations of time I need to accept. So therefore, I would conclude my initial remarks here, and I'm open to listen from you and learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really an enlightening session. Uh, if anyone has any query, question, please ask to sir. Hello, Manu, sir. Hello. Yeah, sir. If you have any query, please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. So happy to see you after a while. Because I already hear from Sri Singara University where you are the part of the Department of English. So I think it was the last time that we met was at ITFOK Thrissur. So it was a very short conversation that we had at those times. So I have a question right here. When during my post graduation, one of the teachers that has shared one interesting fact about the local names of places in Kerala that earlier had Buddhist monasteries. And he just, I don't know how much validity it has, but he just shared me an idea that whatever place names that has the suffix or that ends with the term Palli, say for example, Karthikapalli or Karunagapalli, or such kind of places were earlier Buddhist monasteries. So, as a person hailing from Karunagapalli particularly, I am just interested to know because I have studied in Sri Buddha Central School that has a foundation there in Keralam. So does that have a kind of validity? That's my first question. My second question is for regarding my research area, that is health humanities. It's an interdisciplinary study between medicine and humanities. So you just told that many of the medicinal lineages that we have acquired from this Buddhist tradition. So how much it has contributed to the complementary alternative medicine like Ayurveda or whatever other ways of local medicine and kind of knowledge that we have here in Kerala. These are the two queries that I.
Thank you, Manu, for that brilliant questions, very important and crucial ones regarding the cultural history and traditions of Kerala. The Palli, as I told you, it is a word in Tamil, ancient Tamil, which has connections with the Dakhini variety of Pali, or the southern variety of Pali, Dakhini Pali. So only in the Dakhini Pali and in Tamil you have that word. Palli means the most sacred place, the most holy place. If you speak in English, the holy, that means it is the site of a vihara, a chaitya vihara, or a stupa, that is there. And Pallikudam means the educational establishment that was really related to the Palli. So the Pallikudam, Eluthupalli, Othupalli tradition, the Kalari tradition, Kalari and Eluthupalli tradition, it is originally belonging to the Buddhist tradition. And later it was Hinduized when in Kummambally, Ramamballa Ashan's Kalari, Varanapalli and Kummambally, they by 18th century when Aranaguru went there to this region that you mentioned, the Karthikapalli, Karunagapalli regions, which is called the Onatagara regions. Onatagara itself is the land of Onam. Onam means it's a Sramanam. In Sanskrit, it is Sramanam. or Amanam. So Amana Nat Kara is shortened in speech as Onattukara. So Onam is also Shramanam or Amanam. It's all related to the egalitarian democratic spirit of Buddhism. That's why even in the ballad you have that when Maveli was ruling, all were equal. Or Maveli Nadu Vanidum Kalam, Manushar Ellare people were all equal, and there was no hierarchical Chaturvarnya system or condemning people as Shudra or Stri. That was not there. So that tradition was there. So Palli, of course, it refers to places where there were Buddhist viharas or chaityas or stupas. And Pallikudam means the places having the Buddhist establishment. Shala is also originally the university system. You have Chalakudi, Chala, Chalakal, Chalapuram, plenty of such place names. And Sheri is another, like Palli. Puducherry Ramachandran has in his Kerala Charitrathinte Adisthana Rekhakal, the foundational inscriptions of Kerala history. Puducherry Ramachandran, a poet and later historian, he has also recorded some 2,000 plus names in Kerala, place names in Kerala having the affix of Palli, Pallipuram, Pallikara, Pallikal, Pallimutharam, so on and so forth. 2,000. So even today, even after obliteration into Pilli and Pulli and Valli and Mulli, Pallis are being pillified in Thrissur district and Ernakulam district. Pilli is being used, misusing a kind of slang of the region. In Palakkad region, it is pullified, like Nalle Pulli, Kalle Pulli, Kutam Pulli, pullified, misusing the U spelling. In British colonial times, they used the spelling U, as in Pallivasal. That is also, it is having the vowel also. It can also refer to not just U. So plenty of distortions are happening to distort the ancient Buddhist legacy. So Palli, of course, refers to that. Cheri or Cheri is another word that refers to monastery. Properly, the ecclesiastical or the religious monastery is called a Cheri or Sheri. You have a word like Lama Sheri in English now. It got into English language from Tibetan. Modern Tibetan, it reached English language. It is there in OED. In the Oxford English Dictionary, you find the word Lama Sheri. That means the abode or the monastery of the Lamas. Lamas means the Vajrayana bhikkhus are called. The Buddhist monks of Vajrayana is called Lamas of Tibet. So Lama Sheri is there in, Sir, Lama Ur is another place in Tibet. So that shows there is a connection between Tibet and South India. Uri is in Tamil. Tamil it is. Uri means the village or the native land. So it is Sheri that is more appropriated to the monastery. Palli means the original vihara or chaitya or stupa, those holy worshipping places of Buddhism. And the next question is again very important. The healthcare systems, the traditional practices of self-defense like Kalari and Marmavidya and many Chilamba Attam and many forms are there in Tamil Nadu also, in Nanjinadu and Tirunelveli regions of Pandya land also. There are many such practices. They are all related to. It is Bodhidharma who actually took these traditions of Kalari and Marmavidya to China also. China, they came, Fahian to Huansang, they were coming, the Buddhist monks were coming here for this wisdom. And in 5th century or 6th century, Bodhidharma from South India is supposed to be a Pallava prince. And he accepted Buddhism and he went to China, to Shaolin Temple, and he introduced this Kalari practice as the Shaolin Kung Fu, established and perfected it in China as Shaolin Kung Fu. You have many popular films, Eram, Arivu, and other Surya's film is there on that. So that reached China through Bodhidharma, and then it reached Korea. There it is known as Sion, and it reached Japan by 7th, 8th century, that tradition of kalari or kung fu, it reached Japan and it was formed into karate, the modern karate of Japan. So the Zen Buddhism is also there. The Zen is from the Chan tradition, the dhyana meditation. I couldn't talk about those practices, vipassana, meditation, and the dhyana. In Prakrit, Pali, and Sanskrit, it is called dhyan or dhyana. And that became Chan in Chinese. And that became Sion in Korean language, and it became Zen in Japanese language. So in Japan, it reached much later. Only after 8th century, Buddhism was established in Japan. Then it was a strange mix-up of Mahayana and Vajrayana, or the Tantric traditions. So that is still flourishing in Japan. So all this great, it is an international cosmopolitan legacy that Buddhism goes beyond the boundaries. It never, cannot be limited to the boundaries of Indus or the India or the greater India or South Asia. It has reached further corners of the world, especially after the Ashokan missionaries. Ashoka sent his own daughter, Sanghamitra, and his son, Mahendra. In Sanskrit, it is Mahendra. In Pali, simply it is called Mahinda. They went to the far corners of the world, and many thousands of missionary monks like Sanghamitra or this Chandala Bhikshugi, Pragriti, or those girls, they went to further corners of the world and they spread that thing. And along with, they were working as healthcare professionals of the people. They were giving education and also giving healthcare services, to free healthcare facilities to the people. So that is why that Ayurvedic tradition, that all the greater works are by Buddhist monks. Ashtanga Hridaya, Ashtanga Sangraha, Rasadipani, these are all works of that Vagbhada, the Buddhist monk, Mahathera Vagbhada, like Amarasimha I mentioned, he codifying the lexicon. So from linguistics to medicine, they were the masters. Every discipline you have, if you dig up, you further reach into that point where the Buddhist monks and nuns are the real masters of that discipline. So Vagbhada or Amarako Simha and such people, here in Kadakarapalli, I mentioned Kadakarapalli, Itiyachan Vaidyar. Itiyachan Vaidyar and Kadakarapalli Kollattu people, they got it from a great Buddhist monk called Badanda Nagarjuna, not the Nagarjuna Acharya first I mentioned. He lived in 2nd century, the Shunyavadi. But this is Badanda Nagarjuna, another Buddhist monk who lived perhaps in the between 8th or 10th century, that period. And Badanda Nagarjuna, he was working in South India. He went to Maruthuamala. Maruthuamala was the site of his botanical explorations and studies. And later he came to Cherthala region in Kadakarapalli. He settled down there and spent a lot of time there. His last years perhaps were spent in the Cherthala Karapuram region. And that is how, from Badanda Nagarjuna, the monk, the Kadakarapalli people, Itiyacham Vaidyar and others, they got that legacy. So plenty of such medical and many medical women practitioners were also there. Even today you have in Tibetan medicine, you have women practitioners, or the nuns are the head practitioners there. So such traditions are there which we need to interrogate in Panchakarma, in the Marma Vidya, in Silambaras, in Kalari, in Kadathanad also. Even today, women martial artists are there. Even today, you know the legend of the Northern Ballads, Vadakan Pattugal, Uniyarcha, and others also. So many practitioners of self-defense martial arts, they were also women. And so this can happen only in an equitable, egalitarian kind of system. In no Brahmanical Vedic system, women are allowed to become such missionaries or practitioners or martial artists. So this tradition, the egalitarian tradition, the gender justice paradigm of Keralam in particular, and the healthcare traditions and the Kalari traditions, the Kavu tradition, the conservation tradition, everything is from the greater legacy of Buddhism and Jainism also. Jainism was also very close, And in Puducherry Ramendran's work, you will find a lot of details regarding Jainism also. Professor Ilangulam has written about it. P.C. Alexander has written about it. S.N. Sadashivan. Plenty of works are also there, which you can. Nowadays, you have the videos and other resources also. Anyway, thank you very much for that question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Actually,
Thank you.
sir, Manu, adding to Ajay Sekher, sir, actually, this is a very informative talk by Michael Theragan, sir. It is in Kerala Free Thinkers Forum. Actually, it was a lecture by Michael Theragan, sir, on 18th March 2023, Maharajas College. It is available in Kerala Free Thinkers Forum, 18th March 2023. And he is talking about Sri Narayana Guru's teachings and how it improved the healthcare, public healthcare system in Kerala, as well as the education among the, backward class people. It's a very informative talk that also you may refer to. It's a very informative one. 18th March 2023, Michael Theragan, sir.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
sir. Thank you, sir. Manoj, sir. He's a professor and head of applied economics at COSAT, Kochi. Thank you, sir, for joining and
That title
giving
is
this.
കേരളത്തിലെ ആരോഗ്യ മേഖലയും സമുദായ പ്രബോധനങ്ങളും. It's a Malayalam talk only. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
കേരളത്തിലെ ആരോഗ്യ മേഖലയും
ആരോഗ്യ മേഖലയും സമുദായ പ്രബോധനങ്ങളും.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Malayalam presentation by Michael Theragan, sir, 18th March 2023. Maharajas College, Ernakulam, History Association. Okay. Very informative.
Thank you. Aditya Shrinish, you have any question? Please ask.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Sir, I'm a Kalaripayattu practitioner myself. So your statements about Kalaripayattu were incredibly, fascinating to me because modern Kalaripayattu cannot be, separated from its Hindu iconographies, right? You have like legendary stories about Parashuram and all these other characters from mythologies and all that. So you elaborated on how Buddhism took Kalaripayattu and spread it across the world and how it was connected with medicine and such. Could you elaborate on the origins of Kalaripayattu too? Because right now it's been Hindufied if it had a Buddhist origin, right? So could you like elaborate on that more?
Yes, very important and significant kind of transformations have happened to the Kalari practices, which were originally devised as self regulations or physical training or mental, what you call mindfulness training, which has its origin in the meditation techniques of Buddhism called Vipassana. Vipassana means introspection. It is not a prayer. Vipassana is nothing called a prayer or a dedication to a god or deity, but it is introspection and self cleaning or cleansing the mind, and only meditating on the life breathing. It's a breathing technique basically, and it focuses on, it is part of the samadhi tradition, which is part of the eightfold path. You have the Samma Samadhi, which means where you have that well-trained meditation. Samadhi means samyak. Sama in Pali means samyak in Sanskrit. So basically, this has grown out of the meditative technique of Vipassana, and it has become a physical. It has also, Buddhism addresses, it never divides things into spiritual or physical, but it sees things in an organic whole. A holism is seen. A comprehensive holism is the philosophy of the Buddha, because everything is dependent. You have the body and the mind, but they are interconnected. So that holism, interdependence, or samudaya, or Praditya Samutpada is the basic philosophy of the Buddha, from which you have while you focus on your mind and cleanse your mind, you need to train the body also. So Buddhism basically, from the meditative vipassana technique or mindful techniques, so concentration, mindfulness is the key term, living in the moment and being mindful of what you're thinking or what you're acting or what you're doing, or if you're idle, meditate simply on that idleness or nothingness or the selfless nature or the shunya as interpreted by Nagarjuna later. This is an extension of the physical training. The martial arts is an extension of the vipassana mental training and practice. So it has its origin there, but later in Hinduized terms, it has become part of martialization and militarization. And of course, it has become part of the feudal system. The bloody feuds were there. It was made into more violent forms, like the weapons of mass destructions were used, and it was used to annihilate, and even kill the other and the enemy. So this has happened in all these spheres, in philosophy, in aesthetics, in iconography, in art and painting and literature, in what happened to Vipassana, to this violent forms of militarization. Kalari was used in the feudal times, in the Middle Ages, as a practice of military recruitment. And it was devastated. You have the examples from Kerala, you have the Changampalli Kalari tradition in Malabar. Changampalli. They were the Kalari practitioners and the medical medical practitioners of Calicut, and they even served as Zamorin of Calicut. സാമൂതിരിയുടെ പിന്നെ വൈദ്യന്മാരും കളരി ചികിത്സകരും പ്രാക്ടീഷണേഴ്സും ആയിരുന്നു ചങ്ങമ്പള്ളി കളരി. But during the bloody feudal wars of Zamorin captured the Mamangam, and he ousted Valluvakonadiri, and he was on the Nalapadatara. And from that time, from the 14th century onwards, Mamangam was militarized. It was again Mahamargolsavam. It was a Maghamagam. Now Kumbhamela is being, Sanghavariva's Kumbhamela is being implemented there. So Mahamargolsavam, Mamangam, Mahamagga, it's all from Pali and Tamil. Mamangam, Magolsavam it was, and it was militarized when Zamorin captured it in 14th century from Valluva Konadiri, Valluvanadu. It was the land of the Valluvar people. Tiruvalluvar I mentioned. It means Pulaya people or Paraya people. They are called the Valluva people. Valluva Konadiri was ousted. Mamangam was militarized. Kalari was extremely militarized. It was become part of the military recruitment and such training system. It became more cruel and brutal. What happened to the elephant in India? Elephant was worshipped as the icon of the Buddha. Gajottama, Ganesha, Vinayaka, I mentioned. It is there in Amaragosha also. So once it was all Hinduized and modified and renamed, it became much more brutal and cruel and anti-human and anti-life. So that degradation has happened to the Kalari tradition also. Every tradition, music and dance tradition, Kudiyatam tradition, the Attam tradition, the Pata, the Sopana tradition, everything, Mohini Attam. It is from Mara and Mohini, the Buddhist legend. Mohini is the daughter of Mara, that means the Cupid of the Buddhist law. Because Mara and his daughter Mohini, they tried to tease and end the meditation. When Buddha was meditating, his vipassana was, they tried to break his vipassana. That is the origin of the Mohiniyattam. So whether it is Mohiniyattam or the Sopana music or the theater tradition of Prakrit and Sanskrit, even today in Kudiyattam stage, women and Shudra and Baujan characters, they are speaking Pali and Prakrit. Women can only speak Prakrit. That has become a kind of casteist and sexist kind of stereotyping. It's all having beyond 8th century. when Brahmanism got established, when Brahmanism got royal patronage in South India, it was all Buddhist. So that is why, whether in Kodiyatam, whether in the Atam traditions or the Kotta and Patta traditions, the Mara people, the people of Mara, they are called the Mara people. The Kotta and Patta artist tradition, the Melam tradition, the elephant processions, everything was Buddhist. That was more made brutal and violent and kind of fascist form that is called a Hinduized form. So this happened in every field, and that is the transformation to Kalari. Now it is seen as a Shaivite or a Vaishnavite or a Shakteya kind of thing. This happens everywhere. So this is what happened to philosophy, poetry, poetics, aesthetics, and the martial arts also. Thank you.
Thank you for answering, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm really sorry I was disconnected because of the electricity. But right now I just joined through another device. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Who have questioned. So, sir, first and foremost, on behalf of Cultural Studies Research Forum and Valat, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to you. Your profound session on Buddhist studies and the cultural foundations of Keralam has been truly enlightening. Thank you for sharing your expertise and for providing us with a nuanced perspective on the historical and cultural intersections that has shaped the region. Your research as the founder coordinator of the Center for Buddhist Studies brings a vital academic depth to our forum. And our thanks also goes out to a vibrant audience joining us live on YouTube and Zoom. Your active participation and engagement are what make this public lecture successful. We appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday evening to engage with these complex cultural narratives. So thank you one and all. And thank you, sir. With your permission, let me wrap up today's session.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you
sir.
so
Thank you,
much.
Ajay sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, sir.
Bye.
Sir, as you are the host, will you please end the meeting for all?
Okay.